Welcome to Knicks Home Court with your host, Greg Armstrong. Kristaps and Carmelo is working out. Kings signed Ty Lawson to a 1-year non-guaranteed contract. Let's grade Phil Jackson's offseason. Coming up on Knicks Home Court. Music brought to you by bensound.com. You can find this podcast on iTunes under the podcast title of Life Culture Sports. This is the Knicks version of Life Culture Sports. Coming right at you. We're going to get into the Knicks news. Kristaps Porzingis and Carmelo Anthony have been working out, getting ready for the upcoming season. I mean, they've done it last year. They did a little working out last year. I'm sure this year is a little better, probably a little more intense. I mean, Melo's working, man. He came from the Olympics. You know, he's been working. He's been active this year. We can't say anything. He's been very active. And it's good to see him and Porzingis bonding. I mean, I think that how can I put it? You know how they say real respect real? Players respect players too. Like, players know when they see other players like, yo, Carmelo's like, yo, this dude is nice. He's not only nice, he's nasty. Because Porzingis has a nasty streak within him. You know, he's just not, one of them cool guys. And no. He has a nasty streak in him. He has a killer mentality. I can see it. And Melo's probably seeing that. And Melo wants to, make him a better player. Help make him a better player. People underestimate how having a star on your team shelters a young player. It really shelters a young player. It gives, even when Jordan came in the league, he had Orlando Woolridge. And of course, he was Michael Jordan. And eventually they got rid of Woolridge. It's better to be on a team, I think, for a young player to come in, not to go to a team that's completely barren, like just has only that player. I've seen it happen to too many players where, now some players have the makeup and those are the all-time great ones, but some of them don't have the makeup to come into a situation when they're used to winning and to come into a desolate situation. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns, I think he's special, just like I think Wiggins is a very good player. And that situation is going to get better fast because now they have a collection. But if Karl-Anthony Towns would have came in and it was only him, you don't want to end up like DeMarcus Cousins. As good as he is, his teams are not good. They haven't built anything around him. And honestly, some people will say, well, he's putting up franchise player numbers, but is he a franchise player? His team is not winning with him on the court. So it's better that you get drafted and go to a team that already has an established veteran or star player. It's just better for him. And it's better, if Knicks have a winning season, that is better for Porzingis' development. But I'd like to know, I'm glad that these guys are working out together. They're probably going to be working out more. You're probably going to hear about the whole team working out. I mean, I take that kind of stuff. I like it. I love it. But I take it with a grain of salt. Doesn't mean the Knicks are going to be good. Doesn't mean Porzingis is going to be an all-star because they're working together. Teams work out all the time. These guys work out all the time. And it just so happens every time teammates work out, there's a photo of it. Like, look, fans, we're working out. But I love it, though. I love that they're working out, And I want to get into other thing in the Knicks news. Derrick Rose court case is coming up. It's a litigation, so he's not facing any jail time, at least initially. Anything can happen in the courts. They can end up, after litigation saying, you know what, let's try this, Apparently, the girl is saying she was raped or she didn't give consent to having sex with 3 guys, Rose and 2 other people. And I'm going to get into depth on consent on my next Life Culture Sports podcast, because it's something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be clarified, at least. So basically, Derrick Rose had this woman over. She was drinking a lot, and they knew she was drinking a lot, and I guess everybody was drinking. She went home. She said she was asleep. She was texting. I mean, she was falling asleep or going to sleep, but she was texting Derrick Rose back and forth, back and forth. So finally, he decided to go over there. I'm just cutting it short. I'm paraphrasing it. I'm just going to get straight to the discrepancy. She said, let me start with she said first. She said that she was asleep and they broke into her house or found the door ajar or whatever and came in. They was trying to reach her, and she wouldn't answer. She was non-responsive. So they came upstairs, broke in her house, and proceeded to have sex with her while she was passed out. Derrick Rose's account is that she came down and she greeted them and she invited them in her house. And I would say the iffy part about it is when you don't remember. See, this is the messed up part about this whole situation. When you do something and you drink enough not to remember, it doesn't mean you didn't take part in certain things. I've done that. I've done that probably once or twice in my life. I really don't drink like that, but I remember when I was 21 and I was drinking and people was telling me stories about what I was doing that day before. I couldn't deny it. I didn't remember nothing. It's amazing how you can blank out part of your mind, but I didn't remember anything. Now, I'm not saying that she consented or didn't consent. I'm just speaking to how you can actually still be very active but just not remember. You could dance the night away and forget that too. This times you could do a lot of things when you're drinking and appear to be coherent and everything, or you can be coherent enough to do those things and not remember. Like, let's not act like we forget what happens. Like, let's not act like when you're drunk that you don't take part in activities under the influence and you just don't remember them. You could have been having a good time while you was doing it, at least you thought, but you don't remember them. And then maybe when you wake up and you don't remember, you might be upset. Like, hey, this is some bullshit. I didn't agree to this or I didn't agree to that. So that a little of that could happen. I'm just looking at different scenarios. But the discrepancy is the biggest part of it, saying she did not consent to sex with the guys. She did not let them in. And they somehow ended up in her place and had sex with her. She didn't report it to the police. And not mad at her for that. A lot of victims don't report it to the police. She's bringing it to litigation right now. And we're going to see. I mean, they're saying it's a shakedown. Excuse me. They're saying it's a shakedown. I don't know. I'm very sensitive to these situations. I have a lot of nieces. I don't have any daughters, but I have a lot of nieces. So I'm very sensitive to the situation. So I only people who know the facts are the people who are there. They're going to say certain things, but they know what happened that night. For those basketball fanatics, yes, Derrick Rose will be ready in the beginning of the season. This is not a criminal case. So he's going to play regardless. But I think, I was reading something and it made a little sense. It was saying that maybe Derrick Rose should have settled. Maybe he should have came up with a number and settled. Now, I don't know what the number the woman wants. And the only reason I'm saying that is because, well, now I think it's too late to settle because the details are out. But I think that like before, that's why people settle. This is what people don't realize. That's why people settle when it comes to these kind of cases, because some of your business gets put out there, like your sexual orientation, the fact that you like to have group sex. I'm sure Derrick Rose didn't want that out there. That he, then there's some unsavory comments he made. Like, we going over there at one, we men. Like, that's just not a good look comment. I understand what you're saying, but that comment sounded like Mike Tyson comment. I think he was going to visit the girl at 2, 3 in the morning. You know what happens at that time. Yes, things do happen at that time, but it's not a guarantee. I've been curved late night. I've had a woman call me over late night and be like, I changed my mind. Let's just hold me and shit. That happens, So maybe it would have been better for him to settle before it got to this point. That's how it is. That's how the game is. These young men out here got to be careful. So I'm thinking maybe he should have settled because he might end up losing more money because of this situation. If the people he worked with decide to drop him, because, rape is a big thing, I'm going to move on from that. I just wanted to explain some of that without getting into too much detail about that. And the last installment, the most recent installment of Phil Jackson's Chronicles, I haven't been reading on these things or getting into these things or expressing these things on the podcast because I'm really not interested in it. You can easily find it if you write Phil Jackson's Chronicles. The guy is Rosen who's writing it. I haven't really spent that much time on it. It's just his musings and thoughts, and which is cool, But, I just haven't gotten all into it. Some of it I feel like is unnecessary. So I just haven't really. I just covered that because he could have traded for Jay Crowder, and he decided to get the draft pick and select Cleanthony Early. And I swear, Cleanthony Early has to be so far the most unlucky basketball player in the recent years. He got injured his first year, got shot his second year, and then got cut. And he he hasn't even had a chance to show his game. But Jay Crowder's a good player. He defends Melo, one of the best defenders against Melo. So basically, Phil Jackson said that, he regrets not getting Jay Crowder. He just looked at it with Carmelo and would say, he wasn't going to get much playing time behind Carmelo. But then some people would say, then why did you draft Cleanthony Early, who's also a small forward? Maybe Cleanthony being a rookie or a young player, it wasn't a big deal. Just, bring him in there and, maybe that's what that was. Bring Cleanthony in there. He could ride the bench and learn from Carmelo. Jay Crowder was a little further along. I don't know. But in my opinion, when you have a chance to get NBA players, you go after the NBA players and you figure out the problems later. If you have a lot of talent on your team, you can easily get rid of it. You can easily make trades and get draft picks back. So, but everybody's entitled to a mistake. Everybody believes in these draft picks, and I guess Phil got caught up in that also. Well, this brings us to the end of Nick News, and we're going to move into the NBA news next. NBA news. So the Kings signed Ty Lawson to a 1-year non-guaranteed contract. What the hell are the Kings doing, man? Look. I hope that Ty Lawson can get his game back. I hope he can become the baller that he's been before. But what the hell? This whole, oh my God. If I was a Kings fan, look, they make the Knicks look like the damn Golden State Warriors right now. In the draft, they took big men. What the hell is Sacramento Kings doing? You let Rondo go, which I'm not blaming you for that. But then you sign Ty Lawson. What the fuck? What are y'all doing? What are you doing? I think they signed Aaron Aflalo. Like, what are y'all doing? Y'all have no doubt. Yo, this is like they are literally playing. See, this is why players take control of their situation. You got DeMarcus Cousins in the prime of his career, putting up astronomical numbers in the prime of his career, and is wasted on this garbage front office. It's just ridiculous. All these years, you can't put good players around him. You don't even have a system. You don't have a plan. What the fuck are you doing? Like, come on now. I want to see DeMarcus Cousins in the playoffs. He's entertaining. He's hella good. But what are y'all doing? I mean, look. You know, usually when somebody asks a question or criticize, I've always been the type to say, you know, what would you do? So being that I'm criticizing them, let me just speak on maybe what I would have done in that situation. You know, you got DeMarcus Cousins. Boom. He's your anchor. He's your best player. He's the best player y'all had. Like he's probably going to lead the franchise in all the numbers if he stays there long enough. I know they had Chris Webber and all of that, but Chris Webber, his whole career was in Sacramento. So you have DeMarcus Cousins. You got to put shooters around him. Anytime you have a low post dominant presence, you have to put shooters around him. You have to put a penetrating guard and shooters around him. He's not a pick and roll guy, but he can dominate from the foul line in, and now he can shoot the three. Now, I'm not mad at you for drafting Willie Cauley-Stein. That wasn't bad. I would have looked for some perimeter help. You know, I think Winslow was there. Well, perimeter defense for Winslow. I told people Stanley Johnson is going to be a stud in this league. He will be a star eventually. I don't know about a superstar, but he look at his size, man. He's 6'7", 240. And he was 19 last year. So anyway, you got to get shooters. I might have stayed with Rondo. Rondo wasn't the problem. See, this is the thing. When you're building a team, you have to get you have to have pros on your team. So my thing is, you have Cousins, he's set, star. You got Rondo, he's set, good player. Don't get rid of him. He's already meshing with the team. You could have got a shooter at the 2, maybe a backup shooter at the 3. But that's what you got to do. That's what I mean. I won't go into detail like looking at, but there were free agents out there. Even Courtney Lee, he fits for them. I mean, like I'm not going to look at free agency and try to figure out all. I'm just saying the type of players they need to put around DeMarcus Cousins is shooters. They need to spread the floor and let him go to work in the paint while putting shooters around him. I think the best blueprint to when you have a big man inside is the one that Stan Van Gundy employs, and he's always done the same thing. He did it with Miami. He did it with Shaq, putting shooters around Shaq, and that team was very good, but Pat Riley took over that team. He's doing it. He did it in Orlando and got to the finals, and he's doing it again over here with Drummond. He has Drummond in the middle, and I like Drummond, but DeMarcus Cousins is better than Drummond. And he has shooters around him. I mean, if anything, his power forward, the next power forward to Drummond is the guy they traded from Orlando. I always hate when I forget these guys' names. Oh my God. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? So that's how you build your team. I like that philosophy. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm not even gonna. I spent too much time on Sacramento already. Lance Stevenson has a workout for the Pelicans. Man, Lance, I don't even know what to say. My dude is man, he should have never left Indiana, man. It was sometimes it's about fit. It's about, this is home for you. This is where, people here believed in you and they gave you a shot. And I don't blame you trying to go after your money, but you wasn't doing that. You left money on the table. You thought you was going to become a star or something. And I was telling people that Lance Stephenson's player efficient rating, the PER, the PER, was 13, even in Indiana. In his best time, when he's playing his best ball, he still was a below average NBA player. He was low efficiency, but he did a lot of other things like rebounding and assists, and he's a presence on the court. But when you isolate that, when you put him on another team and they expect him to do more, then be like the glue guy, because that's at his best. He was a glue guy for Indiana. He did all the little things. He would score 10 points, have 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, which is good. But he would shoot terribly in getting those 10, 15 points. I mean, and people got caught up in the hype. But anyway, I hope he can stick in the league. He just started doing off-the-wall stupid stuff, so that's what hurt him, LeBron James. Now, this had already happened, but I got to mention it because it's big. It's LeBron James signed a $100 million deal, $33 million per. It's the most in the NBA ever, and I'm happy for him. I mean, he deserves $100 million per for what he's actually worth. A lot of people don't understand that these NBA players actually get jerked. They get jerked. They don't make. If you want to talk about like from a business standpoint, they don't make anywhere near what they're supposed to make. Like, they are the product. So, and this whole billion-dollar industry is built off of this product and built off of its star players. So $40 million a year, $30 million a year is really not enough for them. And that's just basing it on revenue and jersey sales and just everything's. The whole industry around the players is ridiculous. But anyway, good for LeBron James getting that money, so we don't have to have this conversation every year with him opting out. And he's smart. He's like, man, look, I'm getting older. I might get hurt, so he's gonna play 3 solid years in Cleveland. He's gonna go for it, try to win 3 more championships or whatever, and continue building his legacy in Cleveland. Steph Curry says he was hurt during the finals, but no one cares. You're right. Nobody cares, Steph. Nobody cares. Because you have a 3-0 lead and 3-1 lead and you lose that in the finals. No one cares. Not only that, Steph Curry, last year in the finals, you were okay. You weren't great. And that variable, well, now having Kevin Durant changes everything, because I was going to say that variable needs to be fixed, or Golden State's going to be vulnerable in the finals every time they get there if Stephen Curry is not going to play like Stephen Curry, the MVP. However, they just signed Kevin Durant, so that problem should be remedied. Is that team good enough if Curry were to get hurt to win a finals with Kevin Durant and Clay? I feel like they just need one inside guy now, only because there's going to be so much space in there. You can do whatever you want inside. But anyway, people never talk, when it comes to injuries, people don't talk about Curry. He's been having bad ankles for a long time, so that's something to keep an eye on. Even though I think Golden State, man, I don't even know what to expect from that team. I think they're going to be crushing. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to the NBA season. It should be slamming when it comes. Once it gets here, we going to be excited, because this year it was a lot of movement. It should be fun. It should be fun this year. I actually want to see D'Angelo Russell, see if he can. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a really good player. It's just a lot when you got a player like Kobe there in his last year. It just was a circus. Not a good situation. How I say it's always good to come into stars. Well, then again, maybe it was, because if Russell played like this without Kobe there, it might have been really a microscope on him. Even worse, even more so than it was. That brings us to the end of the NBA news. We're going to move into the topic of this week in Knicks home court. We're going to be grading Phil Jackson's offseason moves. Grading Phil Jackson's offseason. Apparently, Sports Illustrated, I don't know what they were expecting Phil to do, but they gave him a D. They gave him a D for his offseason moves this year. I want to talk about that before I get into Phil's actual moves. They gave him a D. They gave Philadelphia an A. They gave Boston Celtics an A. I think they gave Toronto a C, and they gave Brooklyn a C. And I don't know how Philly gets an A, because they were bad enough to get the first pick in the draft. And other people's philosophy was they didn't do anything bad, so that got them an A. Okay. I think Brooklyn should have gotten an F, because they don't have any draft picks this year, and they're gonna suck. And that owner, the guy didn't do a good job putting together a decent team. What you do is you go out the gate. You should go after unrestricted guys, veterans out the gate. But he's gonna waste Lopez. You got to trade Lopez with the bullshit you just did. You got to trade him and see if you can get some draft picks. But anyway, back to the Knicks. So Sports Illustrated gave him a D. So when I was coming up with my overall, when I was thinking about grading Phil Jackson, his offseason this year, I was figuring, okay, how would I go about it? Like, what does it look like they're going to win next year? What's going to be their win total? Their projected, are they going to make the playoffs? Like, what constitutes a good off season? And I had to say, more than anything, you just look at team needs. I think that's the only area you can go to. You go to team needs and you see, have those needs been filled? So now let's get to team needs for the Knicks. The Knicks needed a penetrating point guard, right? We know Calderon missed many opportunities in the triangle offense to get to the rack and be a threat in the paint. So the Knicks went out and traded for Derrick Rose. They gave up Lopez and Grant and Calderon for Derrick Rose. Being that Derrick Rose has an injury history, even though he was healthy last year, they also went out and got Brandon Jennings for cheap. One of the best deals of the offseason, by the way. But I gotta say, one of the best deals of the offseason, and the fact that you're getting him to come off the bench. That is just like, Jennings has a 6-man. He might have found a home here. We'll see. So to me, based on talent, because you can only base on talent. I don't want to hear shit about injuries, and everybody want to talk about, Derrick Rose, if he gets hurt, his contract. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about Derrick Rose. I'm thinking about having Derrick Rose on my team. That's what I'm thinking about. And if he's the Derrick Rose from last year, that's far better than what we had this year. See, because people want to take numbers out and want to act like it's a team game, but people take the numbers out and try to make it individual. And there's a difference to what teams you play on. Like if Derrick Rose played with a bunch of shooters, and when he was MVP, it would have been a lot different. So you always got to account for the other 4 guys. I know they have all these stats, but the stats you're trying to isolate, but you can't really isolate. Like Kobe, I think Kobe has a lower shooting percentage because of the degree of difficulty in shots and the willingness to take tough shots and the willingness to take shots in the hardest times of the games. Where other players will have higher efficiency, but is not willing to lay it all on the line. This is so much, But let's get back to the Knicks. So that's one thing they need: the penetrating point guard, and they signed 2 of them. They needed more speed and athleticism in the backcourt. Again, they signed Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, who's athletic, and Brandon Jennings, who also is a penetrator, and he's also athletic. That would give them, I would say, Lee is a plus defender, or a slightly above average defender, probably a much better defender years ago. Rose is not a great defender, not a good defender. He's an okay defender. He won't kill you. But the thing is, you have Derrick Rose. He's also going to put pressure on a opposing. If you see, this is the thing about defense, I always say, it's good to be a good defender, but you've noticed great players, they put pressure on the opposing team. So that kind of balances things out sometimes, unless you completely suck on defense and average on offense. So they needed more shooting. They added Courtney Lee instead of Aaron Aflalo. Well, I think it's a little bit of a wash. I think Courtney Lee is a better spot-up shooter, though. Aaron Aflalo, until this last season, he was a great three-point shooter. This year, he was like average to below average. They added Justin Holiday, who's also a three-point shooter, but his averages, actually, since he's been in the league, haven't been good. He's known as a three-point shooter, but we need him to show that. He has that capability, but so far he hasn't really showed that he's a great three-point shooter. But he's known for shooting, and if you put him in the right position, and like I said, it's the teammates on the floor. If you have a penetrating Rose and you have a kick out to Melo and you have a Porzingis, now you have open shots for a guy like Holiday. Now he's hitting at a higher clip. You remember when we had when the Knicks had, I said we, right? Knick fans understand that. When we had the most lethal three-point shooter, the great Scott Novak, you remember the guy. He wouldn't miss a shot until you just put a hand up. He wouldn't even pump fake or nothing. He just stopped shooting. What made him good, though, it was the system. So he was standing there, and all he had to do was hit that three. Once that system broke down and he couldn't get open shots, then he was null and void, basically. Now, we replaced Derek Williams with, I call him Kuz. It's Kuzminskas, but I'm going to call him Kuz. He seems to be a better three-point shooter, at least in the European leagues and the Spanish leagues. I can't really say what he's going to do in the pros. I don't want to even put that out there, Pros is a different game. But he appears to be a good shooter. And remember, Lee Holiday and Kuz is going to go along with Melo and Porzingis, who are good shooters. So I think their shooting is okay. It's not as far from Golden State, but they have decent shooting. They don't have bums out there shooting or guys who can't shoot. They have shooters out there. That Lee's a shooter, Melo's a shooter, and Porzingis is a shooter, no doubt. Holiday and Kuz, we have to see on the NBA level. They needed better defense in the backcourt. I already talked about that. Again, with Lee, at least one thing I can say about Rose, he may not be a great defender, but he's not a matador. He's not a matador. I mean, Jose Calderon was a matador. Everybody just ran by him. I mean, he used to always get back on defense and just stand down there and put his arms out and watch the people run by him. I used to watch this shit. It was so much. It used to happen so much. I used to crack up. I used to just crack up. He used to get there, get down in defensive stance, and the player would run right by him. I swear, every time. I was like, look at this shit. I said, watch this. He gonna get a defensive stand and watch them go by. And I'm like, look, Calderon, you're probably never gonna foul out a game. At least foul a guy. He just would stand to get down in his stance and be like, watch the guy go by. I swear, it's be so funny. Oh, so sad and funny. They needed a better passing big man to run the triangle. See, in the triangle, you need a really good passing big man, because your big man is almost like your quarterback. The triangle offense is not a difficult offense, at least to me. It looks like a very simple offense. It depends on how you explain it, though. To me, when I look at the triangle offense, the quarterback is the center. That's why you need a good passing center who's also a post threat. Because think of it like this. You're in the triangle, you throw the ball into, it's like Noah says, hut, hut, and you throw the ball. And the reason why the center makes the better passer, because he can basically see over everybody. So you give it to the center, it's like hut, hut. And the next thing you're supposed to do after you give the center the ball is you're supposed to cut hard. If you're not cutting hard, making hard cuts and turns, then the triangle is not going to work. And last year, when I used to watch the triangle, I used to see people not cutting hard. I used to see them jogging and things like that. The offense is set up for you to play without the ball. But in AAU land we live in now, these players are not taught how to play without the ball. They literally don't know how to play the game of basketball. They know how to score with the ball in their hand, but playing without the ball, God forbid. And see, I equate isolation basketball to the running game in football. You have less turnovers. You're definitely going to get up a shot. Maybe not a good one all the time, but you're going to have less turnovers and you're going to be able to put up shots. But the thing is, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody can defend it, as passing the ball and moving without the ball is akin to passing the ball in football. We all know that the ball moves faster than people. All you got to do, making passes is so much better than dribbling the ball. There's no doubt about that. And that's when basketball looks its prettiest. We all love the crossover and all of that stuff, but the crossover can come off of a pass. You can get the ball and whoop, whoop, catch them just like that, So the triangle offense, you need a big man who can pass out of that. And if anybody ever looked like they was made for the triangle offense, was Noah. And everybody talks about the contract that he was given. And you got to understand, the Knicks still were in the bad place. They wasn't negotiating with Noah from a position of power. They really wasn't. They didn't have the leverage. Noah had the leverage. They needed a center. They didn't want Dwight Howard, and they didn't want a bum center. They wanted a really good center, and they had traded Lopez away. So he had the leverage anyway, and he wanted to come here. And his boy just came here, which is it's good to have players that played together before to continue to play together. So they needed bench depth because, first of all, they needed a backup point guard to Derrick Rose because of his injury history. And they also needed, they got Lance Thomas back, which was very important. Getting Lance Thomas, he was a super sub last year. And if he could stay healthy, he's looking like, and he's actually, now, say what you want about the triangle, but the triangle created him. He's a triangle player. He literally is a triangle basketball player. The system is suited for him perfectly. And because that's the thing is with this new NBA where it's 3 or layup, you have a lot of guys that really are good at that mid-range shot. But those guys, what are we doing with those guys? We trying to make them 3-point shooters? Yes, but sometimes they're very good mid-range shooters. Some mid-range shooters have hit so many shots in a row. I mean, I know it's a low percentage shot, but it's still 2 points. It still counts. Let's not exclude it completely, because actually that part of the floor is probably going to always be open anyway. Well, Lance Thomas is a good fill-in. He can hit the mid-range. Now he expanded out to 3. He's really a pro's pro, So we got Kuz coming off the bench also, who's supposed to fill the role of Derek Williams. He's supposed to be the athletic. He's 6'9". He's probably not going to do the dunks that Derek Williams are doing. But, I'm willing to see how good he could be. He looked good in the Olympics. He was putting up some numbers in the Olympics, as well as Willie Hernan Gomez, Billy. So the Knicks bench is basically Jennings, Holiday, Lance Thomas, Kuz, Kyle O'Quinn, Hernan Gomez. It's a decent bench. It's a decent young bench, And you got to understand the bench is going to be staggered with Melo, Porzingis, Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, Noah. It's going to be staggered. So you're going to always have somebody on the court. Probably, I would hope that he would always have at least one scorer on the court at all times. Melo should be on the court, or Porzingis or Rose at all times. One of those three guys should be on the court at all times. So if he staggers it right, that could work out. So basically, all of the things that Phil Jackson needed to do, he did. Right? So penetrating point guard. Let's just recap real quick. Penetrating point guard, Derrick Rose. That's an A+, because that's exactly what he is, a penetrating point guard. Don't tell me about injuries. We know about that. But we speaking on talent right now. We can't talk about injuries right now. Just based on what he did last year, penetrating, he's an A+ penetrator. This is what he does. Okay, and then to back that up, you got Jennings, who's a B penetrator or B+ penetrator. His speed, athleticism, even with Rose not being who he was, he's still fast. So the speed and athleticism in the backcourt, another A. Because Rose and Lee have good speed, Jennings have good speed. And again, you gotta always be concerned with injuries, but I believe that both of these guys are gonna be healthy. They're coming off of a healthy season, so that second season removed from the injury. So I'm expecting them to be really good. Excuse me. Shooting, Lee, Holiday, Kuz to go at Melo and Porzingis. Again, I think their shooting will be fine. Better defense in the backcourt. I already told you, Lee is a good defender, and just having a player like Rose who can also go at the opposing guards is very important. Increase in overall talent. You don't think that's an increase? Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, Brandon Jennings, and Noah. These are players who are used to winning also. Of course, Jennings didn't win much, but Noah and Rose and Lee are used to playoff. They're used to winning. And bench depth. So when I'm looking at this entire offseason so far by Phil and the players he signed, also the extra players he signed, the Ron Bakers and, the guys at Chase and Randall, these guys are going to probably be in the D-League. I got to say, let me take my Knicks glasses off. I got to say, his grade, it can't be, I'm going to give him an A-. It should be an A+, but I'm just going to give him an A- for all the naysayers. Because, you replaced what you had and you added premium pieces to what you had. You took away, by the way, Noah was Defensive Player of the Year in 2014. By the way, I just wanted to put that out there. So, I got to give him an A-. I got to give Phil Jackson an A- on this offseason. I don't think he could have done, see, this is the thing. He got all his needs, which is the most important thing. And I don't think he could have done any better besides landing Kevin Durant. And we all knew that was a long shot. So what was expected of him? He did better than expected, I believe. Everybody thought he was going to go after Mike Conley. He got reasonable contracts. We still got our draft picks. Come on, man. He did an outstanding job this year. Anyway, that brings me to the end of this Knicks Home Court podcast. Again, you can reach me at knickshomecourt@gmail.com. If you have any questions or suggestions, anything that any ideas on how I can make the show better. I got one idea. A person told me that I should have people call in. I am looking into that. You can reach me on Twitter at Knicks Show. That's 2 S's. Knicks Show. And now you can find me on iTunes under Life Culture Sports. The main podcast is Life Culture Sports. The sports part of the podcast is the Knicks Home Court. Just something I'm passionate about, but I'm also really passionate about life, culture, and sports. You know, I'm passionate about other goings on in the world and things like that, not just sports. You can also find older episodes of Knicks Home Court on lifeculturesports.com, and you can click on the Knicks Home Court part of it, and you can find all the other Knicks Home Court videos I did on YouTube before I got on iTunes. Everybody have a good week. I'll be right back at you next week with another episode of Knicks Home Court. Take care. Peace.